Hi, good evening, everyone. That's a long intro. You could have told me just as a developer. That's what I do every day because without writing a single line of code, I don't go to my bed, right? So that's in my DNA. So by the way, in next couple of minutes, in the interest of time, and while the food is on the table, I'll try to keep my sessions short and sweet as well. But yeah, there are a couple of 5 to 6 slides that I'm going to talk about how Dell Technologies Consulting would help our customers in terms of how to shortlist or prioritize the generative AI use cases and where to invest. Because if you see the main agenda for today's session, it's like how you can actually monetize on the generative AI investments. If any customer is actually doing the investments on the hardware or on the use cases, how you can quickly monetize is a critical crux of today's topic. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Dell Consulting. I think if I say if I'm from Dell, I think most of you think that it's a hardware enterprise, it's a laptop driven enterprise. Technically, yes, that's the bread and butter. But when it comes to Dell Technologies Consulting, we do have a professional services, our biggest professional services arm, which is at least running from past 24 to 26 years. Right. So we have a large chunk of PS team where it is actually going to deliver the hardware, rack stack, deploy services. We also do a lot of consulting services, right? Just like BCG or Bain and Co. Something similar as such is what we also do from Dell Technologies Consulting as well. So on the similar lines, if you see the number of generative AI services, we do a couple of activities in terms of day zero. Day zero is where we actually help our customers to have a kind of a very strategic activities in terms of what should be your strategic vision or a North Star architecture for the generative AI program. So that's what we cover in day zero. And in day one, we are going to help our customers in terms of hardware deployment, rack stack, manage the data, how you can kind of handle a big chunk of data, so on and so forth. So that's our day one capabilities. And we also help our customers to implement the generative AI platforms. When I say generative AI platforms, if you take Dell server for an example, how to install NVIDIA AI Enterprise for an example, right? Or if you are from a CSP organization, let's take Singtel for an example, right? So if Singtel, where I probably put them into a CSP bucket, and if they want to kind of get into GPU as a service, then we go for run.ai because we can actually fragment the GPU and provide GPU as a service capability. So that's what we do in day one activities. Finally, when it comes to day two, we can help them in couple of operational level led activities. Like say for day two operations, they want to monitor and manage the infrastructure, the large generative AI infrastructure. So that's what we provide. And also we also deploy some of the use cases. Don't think that we only give servers to our customers. We also deploy the use cases. We develop the use cases. It can be chatbot. Krishna was also talking about rack chatbot. So that's what we also do as well. We also implement digital human, let's say object detection, human detection. So some of these use cases is what we actually deploy on our hardware. And all these things where we actually work with our engineering team. So that's the reason why we call Dell validated design, which is actually validated by our engineering team, so that our hardware is completely pre-tuned and customized for the use cases that are going to run on top of it. So having said that, let me get into the next slide where I'm going to talk more on the day zero activity, which is more around advisory services. When I say advisory services, most of our customers do come back with, let's say, 150 to 160 case studies in terms of the generative AI use cases, right? So they have a big chunk of Excel sheet where they have all the use cases, and the customers don't know where to start, when to start, what should be the kind of a starting point, which one to pick it up in terms of the use cases. Hey, my team should focus on chatbots, or should we need to focus on human detection, or let's say a digital human, right? They don't know. I mean, that's what we do. Because when I say a consulting advisory, it's a 6 weeks engagement. It's an on-site led engagement where we work closely with the customers, stakeholders, let's say any C-suite level organization team, where we actually kind of get a list of all the use cases, and we put them into buckets. So that's what we do. We kind of understand what is as is in terms of the use cases. Have they done any such implementations, or are there any ongoing implementations today by our customers team? We better understand that, and we run such activities with the help of workshops. Once we better understand what is as is, then we get into the to be model. In the to be model, we give them what is a North Star architecture, what will be the overall organization strategy in terms of the generative AI. I mean, we also kind of do a skill mapping. How many of your team members does have a skill to get into the generative AI landscape? Because it's not just about deploying one use case on the hardware, it's all about how the team is also quite equipped to manage that particular use case. How about the adoption? I mean, let's say if I have a chat bot, or let's say a digital human, are my end users are capable enough to use that particular use case or not, is what we do that maturity assessment as well. And finally, we also give them a kind of a roadmap in terms of what should be the next set of implementation, or kind of a transformation journey map for a chunk of use cases. So let's assume if one of our customer is coming up with 160 odd use cases. Yeah. So basically, with all those use cases, we have a defined dimensions in terms of what are all the kind of parameters that we take them to kind of shortlist the use cases. These are the kind of a building blocks, right? So we kind of shortlist the use cases in the terms of strategy, how exactly this particular use case is quite important from the strategic standpoint. And we also kind of assess if that particular use case do have enough data. Because let's say if somebody wants to build a use case on, let me take even a simple chatbot, right? But they don't have a good quality data. So that's also another challenge where most of our customers do see, right? So we also kind of assess, do they have a good amount of data, how structured the data is, or is there a big chunk of unstructured data? So that is what we kind of assess during the advisory workshop. And while we do this particular advisory workshop, we also better understand what are all the models that we can actually propose it to our customers. Let's say for RAG chatbot, right? It can be Llama led driven, or it can be something native from NVIDIA, for an example, might be Mistral. So which is a right fit? So that is a way where we can actually shortlist the use case and even shortlist the models that is completely pre-tuned for the Dell platform, because we don't want our customers to either overinvest on the hardware or even underinvest. So we do that right sizing of the hardware. We also give them the kind of a preferred models as well according to the use case. So that's what we are going to achieve from this accelerated workshop. And finally, we bring all these data AI model platforms with the people adoption, right? So that's what we do, so that we need to align these use cases with the people, technology, and process. If there is no buy-in from the people, I think my adoption rate would certainly go down, no matter if my use case is successfully deployed on the Dell platform, right? So we kind of take care of people and even the adoption. So that's what Krishna was talking about. I mean, he did a kind of a comparison analysis, what the time that it took for the AI to go up to, let's say, 80% adoption compared to the generative AI, right? So there is a clear adoption rate that we see today in the market. But when it comes to a corner cases, let's say for a digital human, or might be human detection, for an example, what would be the adoption rate in your organization is what we have to kind of assess. And Dell as a consulting, we do that particular assessment during the workshop activities. So these are all the dimensions that we kind of take into consideration while we do the accelerated workshop. And based on this, we kind of do the clustering activities, right? So once these dimensions are taken into consideration, so all those 150 or 160, even 200 kind of use cases, we have to kind of group them. I mean, we have to put them into a couple of buckets or couple of clusters, so that we know which are all the patterns of use cases that we have to pick first. I mean, if you see here the kind of a small graph, that is going to kind of put the use cases in terms of business value. I mean, higher the business value, I think that is something that we have to consider. That doesn't mean that it is highly tough to implement, right? So we have to see how easy it is to implement, and also what is the business gains that I can see. So that's how we do the clustering activities. So once we do the clustering activities on the use cases, then we identify the pattern. In the sense, when I say the pattern identification, this is to kind of see which are all the kind of use cases that we can build an internal IP and start on top of it, right? So it can be bunch of chatbots, or is it bunch of digital human, or is it like coding accelerators? So that's what we do, that kind of a pattern analysis. And finally, once we do that clustering and patterns, we see, do we have a strong backing from the data? Because the use case might be good, but if I don't have a kind of a data that can back that particular use case, then that will be put down from the implementation standpoint, right? So even we need the data teams to be part of such conversations, so that we take their buy-in, and we start implementing the solution. Now let's see a couple of kind of formulas that we use, or kind of a score, I would say kind of a scoring activities that we do during the accelerated workshop. So when you see here on the left hand side, a big chunk of use cases are put into this framework. That's where we start putting them into the internal accelerated framework, and we kind of take the KPIs of the all the business value scores, like how good it is, or what is the novel insights, what would be the success rate from the business standpoint. So there is a weightage for each of such KPIs. And finally, we also map it up with the feasibility, how easy it is to implement. Is it actually, I mean, will it take 3 months to implement, or will it take 3 years to implement? So that's what we do from the feasibility analysis as well. So when we do a math between business value score and feasibility score, then we will get the overall value for the prioritization. So if you have a big chunk of use cases, and if you put them into this kind of a framework, let's say a generative AI stakeholder, he can easily identify what would be the top 5 use cases that my team should focus on. If we implement, what would be an expected adoption rate, right? So that's what he can finally get from the as is to be kind of a deliverable. So if I get into the next couple of clicks, you can see how we shortlist one of the use case and how we put down one of the use case here. If you see Salesforce integration along with the timesheet mapping, this was one of the internal use case where they wanted this to be integrated with agentic AI framework, right? So once we kind of look into this use case, we got a very good scoring in terms of higher revenues back to internal teams or to our customers, and it is quite innovative from the development standpoint. And the data is quite good because it's coming from salesforce.com, so there is no any unstructured data as such. So it's all getting written in the kind of RDBMS kind of a landscape. And finally, it is quite easy to implement because SFDC does provide APIs which we can use it in the agentic AI framework. But if you see another sample of a use case that we put down from the implementation was under legal and compliance validations for the SOWs, because we are part of consulting. So whatever the SOWs that we write it for our customers, our legal team would take a review, and they are doing it manually today. So they came back with a question saying that, hey, can we kind of use AI? Can we put this into agentic AI kind of a framework? Technically possible, but the adoption rate was quite low because it's a team of 8 to 10 members from the legal department who are going to use, but not each and every employee within the organization. Because the low success rate and the low adoption rate, we have to put this down from the implementation. So this is a clear-cut explanation how the, let's say, the generative AI stakeholders within an organization can actually prioritize the use case, put down the use case, and finally get into the platform and the use case implementation. Now the question would be, how are we going to deliver what will be the use case that are shortlisted? So that will be part of our to be model. So if you see the to be model, this is how the canvas that we provided back to the customer. Within this particular screenshot, you can see, hey, this is what you got it in terms of the use cases. We understand what are all the issues in the current use cases. I mean, is it a data challenge? Is it an implementation challenge? Do we have a security challenge? Or do we have challenge in terms of hardware investment? So we are going to list that particular issues. And finally, based on these issues and as is understanding, we give them the to be roadmap. And this roadmap would have which are the use cases that I have to pick it up, and what is a journey map to implement that particular use case. And we do a right sizing in terms of hardware. Once we do the to be model, and finally we give the benefits outcome to our stakeholders in terms of what will be the revenue gains, what will be the business gains. in the last chunk of this particular slide, which is the benefits activity. So this is how the kind of a canvas that we give it back as a deliverable once they participate in the accelerated workshop. So that being said, just wanted to conclude my small session in terms of what we do from the consulting standpoint, how we help our customers to kind of take them from the kind of a vision or a strategic up to the POC and up to the production level is what we do from the consulting side. Having said that, if you have any such interesting use cases, if you want to be part of that journey or a transformational accelerated workshop, we have Aman, who is actually part of our sales division. You can reach out to him, and we also have Krishna. You can kind of have a word with him. We can actually build a co-led team, and we can help you in delivering such services. Having said that, I will hand it over to Bhuvneshwari. Enjoy the food, and thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.